Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the first community input meeting for the Shawnee County 2020 Solid Waste Management Plan. I'm going to go through this PowerPoint presentation. At the end, there will be a time for any questions, comments, or concerns. And thank you for joining us. Okay. This worked earlier. There we go. I want to be sure that everyone knows how they can access the plan in its entirety. Please go to the Shawnee County Solid Waste Department's website. The website address is listed on the screen. Click on the third item on the left menu where the arrow is pointing, and that will download a PDF of the Solid Waste Management Plan. Just a quick overview of why we do solid waste management plans. Kansas statutes require that each county or region, if there are regions, have a solid waste management plan, that they develop one, that the county solid waste management committee reviews it annually, and that the plan is updated every 5 years, and then the governing agency, in this case the Shawnee County Board of County Commissioners, will need to adopt the update. The last time that the plan was updated was in 2015. There's a solid waste management committee that works to develop the plan. And it is comprised of 12 members represented by as shown on the screen. I'd like to point out at this time that during the development of this plan update, that the committee decided that they wanted to be more engaged in the process and has decided to meet semi-annually instead of annually. And they'll be looking at the plan on a semi-annual basis and making any minor adjustments as they see necessary. Again, the last plan update was done in 2015. There were 3 solid waste management committee meetings held, one in September, October, and November. These were in-person meetings, so we were lucky enough to get in between COVID surges. The present solid waste system was discussed. We discussed all sort of quantitative data. We talked about goals. We talked about strategies. And then the committee approved the draft plan in December. Now we're having our community input meetings. Then the plan will go to the county planning department for their review and approval. And there will be a public hearing held during the Board of County Commission meeting on February 4th. Then we will ask the Board of County Commissioners to adopt the plan, and it will be submitted to the Kansas Department of Health and Environment. First part of the plan talks about county characteristics. There is a great wealth of information in that. Anything that might impact solid waste and the movement of solid waste, roads, the demographics of the county. Here is some population information, how the population is distributed, and that it shouldn't be surprising that the county is more urban than the entirety of the state of Kansas, and that 72% of the county's population resides in Topeka and Silver Lake. I want to talk a little bit about the waste collection and flow. Waste is collected in the county by the county solid waste department and 7 private companies. The waste is delivered to the Rolling Meadows recycling and disposal facility, or Ham's landfill, which is in Jefferson County, or to 2 transfer stations, one in Osage County and one in Pottawatomie County. From those transfer stations, the waste is then transferred to Ham's landfill facility. Less than 2% of the materials that are collected in Shawnee County are exported out of the county for disposal. this graphic more clearly shows the haulers and where they haul to. As you can see, 4 haulers directly haul to the Rolling Meadows, 2 do some direct haul to Hams, and then 2 go to Osage transfer station, 1 goes to Potawatomi, and again, trash is then transferred to the Hams landfill. A little bit about the Rolling Meadows recycling disposal facility. You can see the amount of waste that was collected, disposed there in 2019, and that more than 76% of the tons of waste generated, of waste disposed at the Rolling Meadows landfill were generated in Shawnee County. This landfill also accepts waste from other counties as listed. You can see how much construction demolition debris was collected, disposed there, and the special waste. And from information on KDHE's website, it indicates that special waste is disposed there that was generated in Kansas, Iowa, Missouri, and Nebraska. We also have recyclables. They're collected by the County Solid Waste Department and 2 private companies. They're collected in a single stream curbside program for residents in the county by the county. They're delivered to the Shawnee County Materials Recycling Facility, also called a MRF.
Whoa.
70% of the recyclables that were collected or that were accepted at the Shawnee County MRF were collected by the County Solid Waste Department. And it's important to note that in 2020, glass was eliminated as an acceptable material in the curbside single stream program. Instead, residents can take their glass to 7 locations in the county and discard it into some purple bins where it's collected by Ripple Glass, taken to their plant in Kansas City and recycled or repurposed into new materials. Here's an example. This is not all inclusive, but an example of what is acceptable, what are acceptable recyclables at the Shawnee County MRF. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. There are other facilities in the county that it's important to note. I'm not going to go through them, but as you can see, there's several other counties within the county that process or handle what would be considered waste. Let's move on to generation and recycling rates. Using the data that we collected for the plan, we calculated an annual per person generation rate of 0.855 tons. So each person in the county, it is estimated they generate a little less than a ton of waste materials every year. We calculated the county recycling rate, which means a little less than 10% of the materials that are collected are considered recyclable, and that we don't have data for everyone in the county, but again, as I said, the county collects about 70% or delivers about 70% of the materials that are collected, recyclables, and delivers them to the Shawnee County MRF. So if you just utilize the county, what the county collects, the county, that recycling rate is exactly 4 percentage points more. This is an important thing as we move forward, is if we can watch it as a trend to see if it's going up or down. And as a comparison, the US EPA estimates that every person in the United States generates 0.8 tons of waste annually. At this point, I'm going to mute myself and let Kelsey Wall from our company, Engineering Solutions and Design, talk about the Disaster Debris Management Plan. This was developed as a part to be included in the Solid Waste Management Plan.
So when thinking about disaster debris management, there are 3 phases that need to go into consideration. Those would be pre-disaster, response, and recovery. So pre-disaster is obviously the before the disaster, right? So we're talking about everything from arranging potential cleanup staging areas to weather forecasting, down to route planning. Response. So this would be planning involved with the reaction to the disaster. So how much debris could there be? Who is able to accept the debris in an emergency scenario, and what kind of debris might there be, etc. The recovery phase. So this is the final planning piece. So you're looking at everything involved with disposal, recycling, and reuse of material. Next slide, please, Becky. Rebecca? Oh, thank you. So the purpose of the disaster debris management plan, kind of like Rebecca said earlier, because we're presenting it within the Shawnee County Solid Waste Management Plan, it's to specifically address how different disaster scenarios may impact Shawnee County's solid waste system and how to prepare for those events. So the disaster debris management plan details emergency organizations at the county, state, and federal level, as well as what their responsibilities would be during a disaster. In addition, facilities that are available to handle disaster level debris are listed, as well as recommendations on managing and sorting major types of disaster debris. Next slide, please, Becky. So as an example, Shawnee County is vulnerable to flooding. That being said, floods are also the costliest natural hazard in the US. They pose a significant threat, not only to public health, but can also cause immense amounts of damage. So if Shawnee County were to experience disaster level flooding, that debris may consist of soils, rock, sediment being washed up, potentially clogging major drainage channels and roadways. Also, construction materials and construction equipment may be moved into areas that could potentially damage other objects or be damaged themselves, not to mention, of course, the mass amounts of property damage from the water. So to plan for an event, Shawnee County can access and build upon this disaster debris management plan that's been included with the solid waste management plan, and walk through those planning phases. So having staging areas set and disposal options for a multitude of different disaster events, list of who's able to accept specific types of debris, and worst case scenario idea of how much debris there might be. And finally, having that plan for disposal, recycling, or reuse, so that when disaster does hit Shawnee County, there's a plan in place and the solid waste system can function as efficiently as possible. Becky, I believe we are back to you.
There, I'm unmuted. I'm back. A really crucial part of a solid waste management plan is setting goals so that you have something to work toward during your next year, each year and 5 years, and that you have something to measure against. It's been decided or discussed and decided that the programs listed here will be sustained going forward, that there are no changes at this time to these programs. My computer doesn't like to go to the next slide. We're either going to go to one slide or several here. There we go. So It's been decided that one of the main goals is a recycling goal to reduce the contamination in the single stream recyclables by increasing the strategy to handle this or to improve upon it is to improve public education efforts and increase them. And the things listed here, doing a standalone website that maybe is easy to use and can direct people to what is acceptable, what isn't, if they have an unusual material, where it might go, robust social media campaign, TV, radio segments, press releases, working with the schools, which the department currently does, but to continue working with the schools to promote recycling, reuse, source reduction, and to provide consistent messaging and program materials. And one of the ways to measure any progress toward achieving this goal is through a recycling residue rate. And that is what I'll talk about now. Recycling contamination is anything that ends up in the recycling stream that can't be recycled. As you can see here, pizza boxes, food, containers with food, pesticides or bleach containers, oil containers, plastic bags. That's contamination. Recycling residue, that sometimes ends up in the recyclables, and then it's delivered to the Shawnee County MRF for processing. And it's sorted and processed and baled and ready to be marketed. And anything left, anything like any of these things that can't be recycled, that's considered residue. It has no value and it's sent on to the landfill. So we can calculate a recycling residue rate, and the graph shows the recycling residue rate in percentages over the last 4 years. This is with information directly from the Shawnee County MRF. As you can see, it's kind of going a little bit all over. We want to see that go down. We want to see less and less residue in the recycling stream. It just makes the recyclables easier to market, makes them more valuable. Another goal is to promote reuse programs for household furnishings and building materials. Again, promote that through the standalone website, create demand, and educate residents on the advantages of repurposing these materials so that there is a demand for them. Then we discussed, we put together the goals, and then we discussed what kind of obstacles may be encountered. One of the biggest obstacles right now are the restrictions to combat COVID-19. Because of this, people can't go to the schools if even the schools are open, so they can't present programs to promote recycling. TV studios are less willing to allow people to come in, and there's a reduced ability to collaborate via in-person meetings, which will impact the Solid Waste Management Committee going forward. Another obstacle is markets for the sorted and processed recyclables. I'm certain many of you have heard about, they call it the China wall. It's restrictions by China and other Asian companies that are not accepting recyclables. And so that has caused recycling, like the Shawnee County MRF, to find other markets. There's a reduced value to a lot of the materials right now. Many times it costs more you have to pay for someone to take those materials. And definitely there's a demand for less contaminated materials. The materials need to be much, much cleaner before they are sent on. So just a few concluding thoughts. The solid waste system in Shawnee County is regulated by the county through its code. That code is presented in the plan as an appendix. The solid waste system is well established and adequately funded. Every resident of Shawnee County, there are collection and disposal services available to every resident of the county. And waste generated within the county is collected at least once each week. And as we've talked about, the county operates a curbside single stream recycling program, along with a multi-site drop-off recycling program. And that is an overview of the Shawnee County Solid Waste Management Plan. Again, I want to show you the website and talk about how you can access the entirety of the plan. Go to Shawnee County Solid Waste Management Department's website. The website information is listed there. Click on the third item in the left side menu, and it will bring up a PDF of the entirety of the plan, all 174 pages of it. Are there any questions, comments, concerns?
Rebecca?
Yes.
I have a question just for clarification, and I don't know if you want that to be part of the YouTube.
Sure. We can do that.
When you were talking about the percentage of recycling rates right before the disaster information, I was a little bit confused what those numbers represented. It's pretty early on.
Okay. If you
9% and 13%, I think.
Okay, those okay, I know exactly what you're talking about. What we did was we took all the number for all the waste that we know of that is collected in Shawnee County by all the haulers. And then we took the amount, I think it's 14,666 tons that the Shawnee County MRF accepted. And we divided that 14,000 tons by the total amount and came up with the recycling rate. So that's just a quick and easy way.
What was the difference in the two numbers?
The difference in the two numbers is that the top number represents all of the haulers. And the second number, the 13.69%, that if you just take what was collected by the Shawnee County Solid Waste Department and just what they delivered to the Shawnee County MRF, you can get a recycling rate that's specific to the department. And the reason for presenting both numbers is that Shawnee County Solid Waste Department collects and delivers more than 70% of the recyclables that are processed at the Shawnee County MRF. So it's just for comparison purposes. Does that clarify it at all?
Yes. Do you know off the top of your head what the nationwide rate is?
It's substantially more than that.
Okay.
I don't know a number off the top of my head. The last number that I can remember was somewhere greater than 20%.
Yeah, I was thinking it was 30% or higher.
That's what I was going to say. I know I've heard a number as high as 34%. But I haven't heard a recent number.
Okay.
I just Googled it. Google says 32% is the US average recycling rate.
Wow, look at you, Kelsey. Thank you.
You are welcome.
So this indicates that we're far behind the nationwide average.
Yes, using the actual real numbers from that were collected for this plan. Yes, Shawnee County is quite a little bit behind.
Because I think we had a much higher number in the past. I don't know what's happened.
And that is something that we could do some more research into. And some of it, I have to say, could be the way it was calculated. how it's calculated previously and how it's calculated now, how we calculated it. We could do a little mathematical research into that so that the numbers are comparable. And
Okay.
I will note that and see what we can find.
Right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Are there any other questions? Any comments or concerns?
Thank you. Well done.
Oh, thank you. Well, I think we will sign off, and thank you everyone for being here tonight and participating. There is another community input meeting scheduled for next Thursday, January 21st at 6 p.m. again. And if anyone would like to attend, please contact the Shawnee County Solid Waste Management Department and get a link. And with that, we will close out. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.